understanding how to get money and where money is really important. If you understand money, then you know how to get it. Everybody talks about money, money, money. I like money. I want money. I want money. But then if you ask them, well, how much time did you spend studying money? They'll say, well, none. Well, think about it. If I want to win the Super Bowl, but I've never ever practiced football in my life, am I going to win a Super Bowl like that? What kind of football player am I going to be if I've never ever gone to a football practice? If I don't even know what a football looks like? So to get money, you got to know what money looks like. To have wealth, you got to know what wealth looks like. You have to know what a financial plan looks like. And because believe me, especially when you talk about being a young guy, when I was 16, I was broke. I didn't have any money, and I remember just doing whatever I could to get access to any money I could anywhere. And I had these terrible jobs, and I did stupid stuff, and I wish somebody had taught me this stuff when I was a kid, so I could have avoided a lot of the bad choices I made. I didn't rob anybody or do anything stupid like that, but I remember feeling a lot of stress because I didn't have the money that I needed. Right, so and it only gets worse. The older you get, money, like being stressed out over money, I find is the number one area that people feel the most anxiety about. It's the number one stressor. There are people that kill themselves because they don't have enough money. There are people that get addicted to drugs because of that. There are people who, just do terrible things to other people because of money. So you want to learn money as early as possible. And anybody that has kids, I encourage you to have very light financial conversations with your children at a very early age so that you are able to prepare them for the realities of life. Life is real hard, and it's really hard when you're broke. So, that's my 2 cents. That's why understanding money early is probably the most important thing that there is. I did a video today actually where I was basically laying out what I thought were 5 things that a young person needs to have to be successful in life, to be successful and happy. Those are two different things. So, in fact, if you're not happy, you're not successful, in my opinion. Happiness and success go together. And the 5 things I laid out, as I said, one, you got to have a financial plan. You got to understand money, where it's at. You got to invest money. You have to, money, money, money. You need money to do the things you want to do. Number two, you have to have some sort of work ethic. If you don't know how to work, if you're lazy, you're going to lose. Lazy people are always the losing people. That doesn't mean working yourself into the ground. It just means doing something consistently every day that's going to better your life. So every day, I tell my son, I say, I wake him up and I say, what are you going to do today that's going to better your life and the lives of the people around you? So that's the second thing. Well, work ethic's really important. When I was in college, I used to work pretty hard in school because I wanted to have money one day. And I remember my friends made fun of me because I would go to the library on a Saturday and stuff like that. But they're not making fun of me now. Now they want to be like me. Now they want what I have, right? And I say, well, you really didn't want what I have, because if you wanted what I have, you would have been with me in the library, back in college. And then the third thing is some sort of a mental health plan. Mental health is really important, especially for Black people, because you go through so much. There's so much stress. There's so many things that happen to you. So being able to manage your mental health is really important. And then whether you're successful or you're a failure, or in between, there's always something that's stressing you. There's always something that's going to challenge your mental health. So having a mental health plan is good. So I would watch, motivational speeches, maybe read stuff online about how to manage your mental health. I'm a big believer in therapy. A good therapist is not just for crazy people. A good therapist is for anybody who doesn't want the world to make you crazy. If you want to avoid going crazy, that's what your therapist can help you do. So therapy is I think, a huge, huge asset in the life of anybody that wants to just keep their sanity in the crazy world. The next part is some sort of physical health plan. Your health is your wealth. If you wear down your body and destroy your health in order to get money, then eventually you're going to give up all your wealth and all your money to get your health back. You're going to give all your money to the doctors, all your money to the hospitals, all your money, it's going to disappear because you're not healthy, or you're going to die early and you won't get to enjoy your wealth. So what I do is I exercise a little bit every couple of days. Just do little things, think about what I eat, things like that. I don't do it perfect. Nobody does, I don't think. But you got to think about your physical health. The last piece is some sort of plan for relationships. The ability to manage your relationships is really important. When you look at, for example, when rappers get killed, a lot of times it's because there was no conflict resolution skills. Nobody was able to really sit down and figure out how to repair this relationship so it ends up with somebody being dead. When there's a divorce that happens, which causes you to lose all your money, a lot of times that's because we're never trained on relationships. Men aren't really trained on how to deal with a woman, or women aren't trained on how to deal with a man. So next thing you know, your family's broken apart, which is a huge wealth destroyer. The number one wealth destroyer in America, as far as Black people goes, or one of the top 2 or 3, is broken families. So ultimately, the ability to relate to other human beings, whether you're relating to your kids, relating to your spouse, relating to your buddies, is critical, because number one, bad relationships will cause you to lose not just your money, but things that are more important than money. On the other hand, good relationships allow you access to things that you can never have. If you have good relationships, I've seen people who have good relationships who have been able to pull together a group of people and go out and make $10 million and do it easy, because they have relationships with people that can help them do the things that they cannot do. If you're a good person and you know how to relate to other people, you know how to understand what other people need, how to make everybody feel included and everything else, then what happens is that the people want to be around you. They want to work with you. They want to be in the same family with you. They want to be in the same business with you. They want to be in the same friendship circle with you. And then all these great things happen because you got this great circle of people around you. You don't have to do it by yourself. I mean, think about it. Who's going to be more successful if you're trying to, let's say you're trying to protect your neighborhood? Well, who's more successful? One individual trying to do it all by themselves, or a whole group or collective of people, maybe even a gang of people, if you want to use the word gang. The gang will be more successful. The group is more successful. The individual can't really do it by themselves. So when they teach you like that you're supposed to do everything by yourself and it's always about you all the time, that's a nonsense concept. That's not African centered. That's very Eurocentric. And think about it. If you look at football, nobody wants to play with that prick who wants the ball to himself all the time, who thinks he's the most important person on the team. That person will get kicked off the team no matter how talented they are. So in life, generally, learning how to be a team player is one of the most essential skills for success that I have ever seen. So those are 5 things I would say. If I had a school right now, I would train the kids. I would have a class in each of those 5 areas so that when they go into the world, they are experts on those 5 things. If you have those 5 things, you will win in life. You will be successful. You will be on top of your game. So there we go. That's my 2 cents. I hope that was helpful. I hope I didn't distract too much from our conversation, but I felt the need to share that. So, all right. So let me hop out here and tell you a little bit about what's going on in the market. So right now, today, you have a slip in the market of it started off slipping about 400 points. The Dow, it's down about 331 right now. A lot of this is because the Federal Reserve is about to have a policy meeting. That is a 2-day meeting, and everybody's nervous about what the Fed is going to do. It's kind of weird, though, because everyone kind of knows what the Fed is going to do. They just don't know exactly how it's going to play out. The Fed right now, the Federal Reserve, is increasing interest rates because they need to do this in order to control inflation. We've talked about this. The negative side effect of increasing interest rates is a slowing down of the economy. So while everyone's watching the Fed's reaction to economic conditions, they're also watching the conditions themselves and trying to predict what the Fed is going to do by looking at what the economic numbers say. So right now, for whatever reason, today it just happened to be a bad day. You've had several bad days in a row, and I'm very sorry about that. And I want you to remember, this is the time to remember that as an investor, you can make money in any environment. There's a benefit to any economic upturn. There's a benefit to any economic downturn. And so right now, the benefits go to those who are able to either buy stock or at least sit on what you own. Just hold it, So it's you're inside the house. There's a thunderstorm outside. What you don't want to do is you don't want to go outside because you're definitely going to get wet. So if you don't have to go to work or you don't have anywhere to go, you just sit in the house, Netflix and chill until the storm is over. If you live in a place where they don't have running water, let's say you want to collect some rainwater, maybe you can do that or whatever. Or if you just like looking outside at the rain, you can do that, but you don't go outside in this rain because you will get wet. So what do I mean by that? Well, selling in this analogy, selling your stock is like going outside. You're realizing you're taking an unrealized loss and turning it into a realized loss. You're taking something that is theoretical and imaginary and you're making it real. So your stock has been body slammed and it's making you upset because you're staring at the stock, watching it go down, and it's making you feel like you're losing money. They call that a wealth effect. Economists call that the wealth effect, when you psychologically believe that you're poorer than you were before. So what you do is you say, oh God, I got to get out of this. I got to sell the stock because I'm too scared. So then you end up running outside and you end up getting wet. And so the best way to deal with the rain most of the time is to just, if it bothers you that much, then just put your headphones on and watch a movie or go take a nap. And then when you wake up, the sun comes back out and everything's back to normal. So I don't think this is a market to sell anything in at all. The only thing I sell in this market is I sell stock options, but that's because it's a bearish strategy. This is a market that is not good for those who believe that the next great bull market is just around the corner, because there are some things that have to be worked out. You have just so much financial irresponsibility from the Federal Reserve and from the federal government that has occurred in the last 12 years that this has to be played out. Now, all those interest rate decreases that the Fed put in place, all these increases in the money supply, all of the fiscal spending is going to have to work itself out. U.S. debt to GDP is outrageous. I think it used to be something like 25-30%. Now it's over 100%. Your government is deep in debt. It's crazy. And that does not go backward. They're not going to go from 100% to 80% or 50%. They're going to keep going. They're going to go to 125%, 150%, 180%. I don't know who these idiots are that are running the government, but they are about the most financially irresponsible people I've ever seen. If that was my kid taking on that much debt with that income level, I would say, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Or are you an idiot? Like, what is wrong with you? So ultimately, this is going to catch up. This is going to become a problem. It's not necessarily your problem right now, but it will become a problem. Now, with that said, let me read a little bit more here. As I'm reading, it says that the Federal Open Markets Committee, that's the Federal Reserve basically, begins its September meeting on Tuesday, where central bankers are expected to announce a 0.75 percentage point rate hike on Wednesday. Stocks have tumbled in recent weeks as comments from Fed Chair Jerome Powell and an unexpectedly hot August consumer price index report caused traders to prepare for even higher rates until inflation cools. Rates marched higher on Tuesday. So basically, the 2-year Treasury bond reflects what they believe that the Federal Reserve's final interest rate is going to be once they finish all the rate increases. So when these rates go up, a lot of your your tech stocks tend to get hit the hardest. So the Nasdaq is being killed big time right now. Ford shares went down by 9% after it announced supply chain issues that will cost them an extra $1 billion in the third quarter. Housing market data released Tuesday showed an unexpected jump in housing starts. Okay, so that's kind of what you're seeing here. So ultimately, there's not much to do here other than find good companies and buy them. So what I've been doing also is I've been investing more heavily in companies like that I believe in, like Amazon, or I'm trying to think of another one that I like, Costco, Walmart, companies like that I believe are going to be among the first to benefit when all this is over. When this is going to be over, nobody knows. But ultimately, that's what you're dealing with, and this is going to have to play itself out. The Federal Reserve is probably going to have about 3 more interest rate hikes before they're done. The big concern that they have now is that they're going to overdo it, just like they did with the rate decreases. They overdid it, and now they're going to probably overdo it to the other side, where they're going to cripple the economy and probably do it more than is necessary to control inflation. Now, what do I think about Google? If you have a question, put it in the Q&A section so I can see it. And by the way, the brother who mentioned your corner program in Memphis, Chanel, I know you're in here. Chanel, can you get his information and get information on that corner program in Memphis? Because I'd like to learn more about it in terms of what they're doing. He's doing some amazing work in Memphis on financial literacy, and I want to see how I can help out. So what are my thoughts on Google? Ask Greg. I think Google is a company that is worth investing in. Google is a good company because they have good management. That's the key. Right now you're in rough, choppy waters on the ocean, and you want ships that are big, strong ships that have good captains. So these are the companies that are going to do well. Now, if you want to invest in some of the tech companies, or what they call high growth companies, things like that, you can do that. But you have to understand that some of those companies are going to cease to exist. Some of those companies are going to just be gone. And the reason that some of them are going to be gone is because the strange way that the Federal Reserve managed the economy changed the rules of economics. It made people think that the rules of economics had changed. There used to be a time where there was a concept, and actually, if you log in at the blackstockmarketprogram.com, you'll see this. But there was a time where there was a belief in a concept called the time value of money, and the time value of money basically said that when you are looking at a stock or valuing a company, you have to value the cash flows in a certain way where you take into account the fact that the amount of interest charged on the company's debt is going to be affected by things like inflation. It's going to be affected by things like risk. It's going to be affected by things like what they call the impatience parameter, which is just the loss that you might experience from not having access to your money or somebody else letting you control their money. So what happened was that because the Federal Reserve dropped interest rates to pretty close to zero, all that went out the window. So you didn't have to worry about things like making sure that the company was profitable. The company could be unprofitable for a really long period of time because they had access to all this cash and there was no cost to holding the cash. So what does that mean? That would mean that, like, imagine if you had a business where you had to get rental cars to run this business. You want to deliver pizzas every day and make money delivering pizzas. So you have to go rent these cars, and every rental car costs you, $100 a day. So you had, or let's say $80 a day, right? Do something more reasonable. And you, so in order to run your business, you had to compare, like, okay, how much money am I making compared to how much money I'm spending? I have to, if I'm paying $80 a day to rent my cars, eventually I have to make at least 80, 100, or 150 or whatever per day to make it work, to make it make sense. That's a common sense business model. If I make less than $80 a day, it doesn't make sense to go rent more cars, right? So I'm going to keep renting cars until I get to the point where I'm not making more than $100 a day on that last car that I get. So maybe I only get 2 or 3 instead of getting 6, because 6 cars, I don't have enough business to sustain 6 cars. Now imagine this. So you get that scenario in your head. Give me a yes in the chat if you get that scenario. Okay. So imagine if suddenly the rental car company said, instead of charging you $80 to rent your cars, we're going to charge you nothing. Cars are free. You pay nothing to rent your cars. Now, at that point, how big would your fleet be? How many cars would you get at that point? If they literally cost nothing, or maybe let's say it was something small like $2 a day. How many cars would you get? Tell me. As many as you can. There you go, Ken. Thank you. You would have, a fleet of 200 Bugattis because cars cost nothing. So you could literally run this massive operation where even on the last 1,000 cars you rented, you're not making any money, but you don't care because the cars don't cost you anything, right? So a lot of these companies were built in a world where the cost of renting money was non-existent. It was virtually free. So you had companies that weren't even making a profit that were getting billions of dollars in funding from banks and venture capitalists. Why? Well, because the cost to rent money is free. That's all interest is. All interest is a rental fee on using somebody else's money. No different from the way you rent a car at the car rental place. So that's the world that you lived in, right? So process this. This is what you're seeing in this economy. Let's take this full circle. So imagine, so you now have a business where you're not paying anything to rent your cars, totally free. So you got 3,000 cars in your lot. Maybe you use about 5 of them, but you don't care. Eventually, you'll get around to using the other 2,995, but you're using 5 because the cost of renting cars is free. Well, what if suddenly somebody comes along and says, we're going to hike up the cost of renting a car. Now, instead of it being free, it's going to cost you $80 a day to rent the car. Well, now you got a problem. Now our whole business model might be in trouble because maybe before, when the cost of renting cars was nothing, we were donating cars to drive old ladies across the street. We were using our cars for personal stuff. We were getting in lines of business that weren't even making money because the cars were free. Now suddenly the bar has been raised. Now suddenly the rental car company says, yeah, Tomorrow, if you want to keep those other 2,000 cards, you got to pay us $80 a day for every one of those cards. If you can't pay it, then we're going to just take your cards away. So you say, well, I'm sorry, I can't pay it. Well, then they come and they collect all their cars. They start repoing all their cars. So your business shrinks, and maybe your business even dies because you weren't focused on really making a profit because the cost of renting the cars was so cheap. So ultimately, a lot of these companies that are out here were surviving mainly because the cost of capital was so cheap that they were able to get access to really cheap or free money that allowed them to stay in business even when they shouldn't have been in business. There are some really bad businesses that are out here that are publicly traded that are going to die because now it costs money to do business. Now the old school models, those models that everybody swears are outdated on how to value a company, how to value an investment, what they call net present value models, things like that. All these models are back into play because interest rates have gone up to normal levels. And it's fascinating as an OG, a financial OG, I guess. Maybe call me a FOG, FOG. I'm a financial OG. And it's fascinating to me because I went to my sister's birthday party, and two of her friends are bankers. One works for the Federal Reserve. The other one works for a big bank. And he does mortgages, and he was saying, I can't believe it. He said, I'm really shocked by the interest rates that I'm seeing that are being paid on these loans that are going out. And I said, wow, what are they? He said, oh my God, people are paying 6% on a mortgage. That's insane. That's crazy. And I just laughed. And I realized that he was about 30 years old. And I was laughing because a lot of you all are old enough to remember a time where it wasn't uncommon to have a mortgage with an interest rate of 12% or 13% or 20% even for if your credit was bad, or 9%. If you get 8-9%, people thought that was great. So now we're kind of just going back to normal a little bit, and going back to normal can feel like almost like a recession or a depression or a market drop, in which it is to some extent, but it's really a correction. It's just correcting things and getting them back to what they're supposed to be. Okay, so let me see here. I see questions in the Q&A. Angela, please give your feedback on NEO. Yeah, I like NEO. I hope that's a good answer. I own shares of NEO. I think NEO is a great investment. I like it. What copper stocks do you purchase? I got the Global Shares Copper ETF. If somebody in the chat could type it in, I mentioned it earlier, and I think it's Global Shares Copper X or something like that. But yeah, that's what I buy. That's how I've made my investment in copper. What's the name of the movie? The movie is called B1 the Movie, and so I'll put the link in the chat where you guys can join us tomorrow night if you'd like to take a sneak peek at the film, and we'd like to just ask your feedback to tell us what you think about the movie. Now, there was this interesting article I read about four things that or self-made millionaire credits his wealth to four unpopular money rules, and this is interesting. He says this might help you in terms of getting rich and building wealth. He says, number one, don't make big purchases unless you have two times its price saved up. So I guess that means if you buy something that's $1,000, you should have at least $2,000 saved to do that. Okay, well, that's simple enough. Number two, he says, don't buy anything you can lease. Okay, he says, while working my way to becoming a millionaire, the only big ticket items I would buy were ones that could increase my cash flow, such as commercial properties I could rent out. I never bought anything I could lease, like a primary residence or a car, so that I could avoid the higher monthly payments and upkeep costs associated with owning. In 2012, for example, I sold my home and lived in rental houses for almost 10 years. This freed up more money for me to invest into money generating real estate. Once I saved up a hefty amount, I bought a house with cash. To this day, I still lease my cars. However, I never extend the lease for more than 24 months, even if it makes the bill more affordable. A lot can change in 2 years, and I try to avoid being stuck with a car that doesn't serve my needs. Okay, I get that. For a long time, even though I was doing a lot of investing stuff, I didn't buy a house for a really long time. And a lot of people thought that was weird that I didn't want to own a house. And I said, well, I really don't want to deal with owning a house. And also, I have other ways to get tax write-offs, and I have other ways to grow my wealth. And so, I think the argument might be that, if you assume that, say, paying rent is far less than the cost of having a house and a mortgage and all that, which it hopefully usually is, then you can take that extra money and invest it and grow that money just like you would if you own property. Is that always the case every time? I don't know. I tend to lean toward home ownership. I kind of like home ownership. I think it's a natural savings account, a natural piggy bank. The equity that people have in their homes tends to be, in many cases, the only form of major wealth that people have. So I tend to be an advocate for home ownership. But at the same time, I guess I kind of get what he's saying, especially given that his goal was to buy properties that make money, and that really is kind of the holy grail. I mean, if you have property that actually generates income for you, then it effectively becomes free. I have some different properties, and and we rent them out, and that means we have these assets we own, and we don't pay the mortgage, but we get the equity. So our wealth goes up, and literally someone else is paying the mortgage. Our responsibility is to make sure that the repairs are done and stuff like that. So that's not bad. That's a pretty good deal. So I would encourage you, if you can get in on a situation, I would go for it. Number three, this is a good one. He says, don't spend to impress others. Yeah, I hope we agree on that. I mean, impressing other people is such a waste of time. It's very draining, and if you have this incessant need to impress other people, maybe a good investment for you could be like getting a therapist to help you understand why other people's opinions matter that much. I'm not making fun of you. I kid you not. I believe in therapy. I've talked to therapists for years, and I think therapists are a great way. A lot of people think therapists are for crazy people. I think therapists are for people who don't want to go crazy, right? So, life is hard. There's lots of things you have to figure out, lots of things that stress you out. There's no shame in being stressed. There's no shame in feeling overwhelmed. There's no shame in feeling afraid. What you want to do is talk to. The reason I believe in talking to therapists is because therapists can give you tools to manage the fear so it doesn't cripple you, or to manage the stress so it doesn't kill you, or to manage the trauma so you don't end up hurting yourself or harming other people, inadvertently or otherwise. So impressing other people is a complete waste of time. But then again, maybe I feel that way because I'm 51 years old. Maybe when I was 31, maybe I felt differently. But I can just tell anybody that's younger than me that those people don't care about you. They're not really thinking about you, and they're not going to be the ones who deal with the consequences of all the money that you lost because you spent it trying to impress other people. So I like that a lot. And also, when you get wealthier, um, you know, there's a lot of pressure. Some people feel they think culture teaches you that if you get money, you're supposed to show off how much money you have. And I encourage you to really not embrace that culture at all. There are lots of millionaires in the Black Business School. There are lots of you probably in this room right now who have over $1 million in assets and wealth and everything else. I meet a lot of you. And one thing I've noticed is that most of the millionaires that I meet in the Black Business School don't even look like millionaires. I was in New Orleans, and I was waiting on my Uber, and there's a guy who yelled for me from across the street. He said, "Hey, Dr. Boyce." And so I waved back, and we were talking back and forth, and we were literally, it was awkward. We were talking across the street, and then it hit me. My Uber hadn't got there yet. I said, "Hey, can you give me a ride? I got to go to this hotel around, this couple miles away." He said, "Yeah, sure." So me and my wife literally hopped in his truck, and I don't remember where he was from. He was from the South. So he had those good, solid Southern values. I think that gets underestimated. I think it's underestimated, like how powerful that is to have good value systems like hard work, being a decent person, discipline, family, things like that. Those are just solid people. I really love that. So anyway, he was telling me about that he'd been married to his wife 30 years. He was a federal marshal for a while, and then he left that job to do a real estate company with his wife. They'd raised two kids, and he said, "I have over $1 million in my portfolio now." And he also said that he quit his job because of something I told him. I'd said to him years ago, and I was really proud to have played a part in his family's success. But this guy was a millionaire, and you never would have guessed it. He had a nice truck. It wasn't fancy though, but it was a nice truck. He had taken his family to New Orleans to take them to a play or something like that, so they were having a good family experience. And this is what it means to be well off, in my opinion. Being well off is not a life full of luxury cars and wasting money on diamonds and jewels and all that. It's about the ability to make decisions in your life where money does not get in the way of you living your best life. Your daughter needs your daughter needs a new car. You can go shopping with her and help her get a new car. It's not a problem. You want to take your family on a trip, you can pay for the trip, and then pay it off your card, or pay it with cash. It's not a problem. You want to add something to your house, or you want to make some sort of professional move, or you want to start a new business. it's not a problem. That's what wealth really feels like. And I'm gonna tell you, in our family, with the so-called wealth that we have, me and my wife are not poor. I don't think that's a secret. We don't really care at all what the neighbors think about the car that we pull up in our driveway. We don't care what anybody thinks about anything. I mean, we just don't. It does not even process or compute into our calculation of what we're going to do with our money. What matters is how money is a tool to allow you to live your life as a free Black person without sort of being stressed out over the fact that you can't have what you want or do what you want because you don't quite have the money that you need to get there. So aim for that. Aim for quality of life. I'm telling you that's where it's at. So let's see here. Galaxy. Wait. You know what? Actually, before I read this last question, I'm going to read the last point. Oh, he said number 4. He says only spend your passive income. So his number 4 rule of how he became a millionaire is, he said, if I earned $100,000 a year from my job and $20,000 a year in passive income, I would try to only spend $20,000 on things beyond my basic living expenses. All these rules require a great amount of discipline, and they might not be for everyone. So I guess what he's saying is that, I guess if he makes his money from his job, he tries to save as much of that as possible. And then his passive income money, he tries to live off of that, which I guess is doable depending on what your passive income levels are. But passive income is an important part of your long-term financial plan. Remember that there's four levels to making money. And I'm going to see if I can remember what those 4 were. I think the first level was maybe getting a good job where you get a job that pays you enough money to live off of. That's usually, most of us stop at level 1. We grow up and we're raised to go look for a good job, and if you get a good job making good money, then you're straight. You got a job at the Ford plant or whatever, and people feel like you're doing good. But then there's that next level that many of you are going to, which is where you become an entrepreneur and you buy yourself out of your job. So you have you are working, you got this business, maybe you're a solopreneur and you're working harder than you worked on your business, but you're happier because you're free, you own the actual company, and maybe you're lucky enough to make more money on your business than you made on your job. And then there's level 3. Level 3 is where you learn the value of delegation, scale, etc. So delegation and scale and technology and all these other things, what that can allow you to do is then become a leader. So you convert from being a solopreneur to being a CEO, where you're managing a team of people that are helping you get more things done. And so what's happening is you're paying your team. Maybe you're paying your team $3,000 a week, and you're making $10,000 a week. So all those profits end up going to you. So you are able to accelerate the economic benefits of the things that you work on. And then there's number 4. Give me 1 second here. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I lost you guys for a second. So number 3 is cool because that's when you start becoming rich. That's typically where you're just you're making an insane amount of money and you're running a whole big team and a big company and you own assets and all those other things. But then the problem is you get to a point where you maybe get a little bit tired. You don't want to do meetings every day, and you don't want to constantly have to manage your team members and all that. So then you get to that 4th level, which is ownership of businesses and the generation of passive income. Passive income is the holy grail. That's when you're making money without working. You're not making any phone calls. You don't have to do any meetings. You don't have to do anything. Your assets are working for you. That can come through things like investing in the stock market and selling options, the way I teach the students in the Prime program at drboyceprime.com. If you guys want to take a look, it can come from your real estate portfolio where you own property and you're making money because you own the property. Or also another secret that Dr. Claude Anderson told me that one of his Jewish friends shared with him. I don't know how popular this is in the Jewish community or not, but I'll share it with you. Is he said that his friend said, look, my goal is never to own 100% of any business. And he said, well, what do you mean? Like, you don't want to own the business? And he said, no. He said, I want to have 10% of 10 businesses instead of 100% of one business. Because if I have 10% of 10 businesses, you get 2 benefits to that. One, you have diversification. Remember, I told you guys the first rule of investing is you want to spread your money out. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. So if all your wealth is tied up in one business, that means that if that one business flops, you're done. You're dead. You have nothing, right? So you spread your money out. That's the first benefit. The second benefit is that when you are invested, when you own just 10% of the company, you're a silent partner. You're a minority investor. So you're not really expected to do anything. You put up 10% of the money to start a bakery, but you don't have to bake any cookies. You don't have to do any of the work. You just have to show up and find out how much money you made. So you do that 10 times over, and you have 10% of 10 businesses, which adds up to one business, but you're not doing any of the work, but you're getting all the economic benefits that come with business ownership. So the people who control capital are the ones who have all the money and all the power and all the opportunity that exists in America. When we were talking earlier, just the other day, this week, there was a conversation about some of the Disney movies and other movies that come out. Two movies we talked about this week. One was the Little Mermaid, that had a beautiful young black woman that was playing the mermaid. And there was a whole debate about having a black Little Mermaid, which I think is wonderful. Disney movies are really good. My daughter watches them. I love them. The other one is The Woman King. And my wife and I did a full thorough review on The Woman King, and we kind of talked about that. And there was a lot of discussion there, and you can look that up if you want. But here's the point, the financial point I want to make on this. I said, look, as we get caught up in this debate over, whether or not we want to have a black Little Mermaid or white Little Mermaid, just understand that whether that Little Mermaid is black or white, Disney characters are owned by Disney. All the black Disney characters are owned by Disney. The white Disney characters are owned by Disney. The Latino Disney characters are owned by Disney. So they don't really care if you have a black Ariel. If that makes you get up and go buy a movie ticket, then they'll make Ariel black every time. They just want to own the intellectual property that comes with the creation of their characters. They probably filed 10,000, 20,000 patents on all their different characters, the white ones, the black ones, the Latino ones, etc. And you want to make sure you understand that aspect of ownership, okay? Because the people who own the asset, who control the capital, are the ones who are making the most money. And what's really fascinating is that they're doing the least amount of work. They're not doing anything to make these movies. The people that actually own the company, they hire managers to go and create the cartoons and all this other stuff. Okay. All right. So two more questions, and then we'll bounce out for today. Let's see. What's the difference from purchasing an individual stock and some of the same stocks in the ETF? Is there an advantage just purchasing individual stocks? The difference is that if you buy the individual stocks, you get to decide what percentages of your portfolio that stock is going to make. So if I have an ETF, let's say I have an ETF that is 10% Tesla, 10% Microsoft, 10% Google, and 10% of 7 other companies, that's what I get. If I buy a share of the ETF, I'm going to get 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. But what if I want my portfolio to be, 40% Google? Well, I'd have to do that on my own. I'd have to go and form my own portfolio. So think of an ETF like a McDonald's value meal, where they give you one burger, one small fry, and one drink. Well, what if you want 2 small fries? Well, then you're going to have to go and buy an extra order of fries and create kind of your own combo. Or what if you want an apple pie with your combo? Well, they don't have a combo with an apple pie, so you have to buy that a la carte. So if you want a unique portfolio that reflects your unique interests, you can buy stocks a la carte. Sometimes we just fall in love with a company. I met a brother who I was very proud of him, but I was kind of concerned. He had made like a couple $1 million. He was 34 years old, and he moved to a Latin American country. And we were talking for a long time. He didn't know who I was for a while. And then I took my mask off, and he kind of freaked out. He said, "Oh my God, I'm talking to Dr. Boyce Watkins," and it was a kind of a hilarious moment. And so one of the things he was telling me about was he had bought all this Tesla stock. And he said, I have 95% of my portfolio in Tesla, and I made $2 million. And I said, I'm really proud of you. That makes me really happy that you're a young black man at 34 years old that has $2 million. But I'm a little concerned that you have so much of your money tied up in Tesla. But he loves Tesla. He loves Elon Musk. Hopefully he's bought some put options or something to protect his investment. But that's what he chose to do. That's his personal preference. So part of investing does come back to your own personal style. I don't think there's always a right or wrong way to do it. I just don't want you to do things that are going to cause you to lose all your money. So be careful with that. Last question, Sika says, can you please provide the link or the title to the article you're referencing? Okay. Let me grab this link for you, Sika, and I'm going to pop it in here before we bounce out. And by the way, and also the other link I'm going to share again is if you guys actually, there we go. Okay, it looks like Chanel put it up in there. So if you guys want to join us for the private screening of B1 the movie, we're gonna do 18 minutes of it. It's broken into segments. So we're gonna privately screen a segment just for Black Business School students only, and only 50 people are allowed in the room because we don't want. This is not the broad opening. But if you'd like to join us, you can go to that link I think I put that link in there where you guys can take a look at the article. There we go. All right. So I hope this conversation was helpful to you. I hope that you learned something today. I want to encourage you to be consistent when it comes to your investing. I don't want you to be afraid. This is a dark market. Times are tough, but things will get better. Also, if you'd like to see all the stocks that I picked for this week, don't forget you can log in at theblackstockmarketprogram.com, theblackstockmarketprogram.com. Look under what Dr. Boyce is buying, and you can find all the stocks that I picked for this week. And remember, I've done this about maybe 100 weeks in a row. So you can go back 100 weeks and literally look through any week, and all those stock investments are still good. Every investment I give you is an investment that's expected to do well over the next 5 to 10 years. Okay. So don't think that last week's picks are no good. They are still good. Now, if you also for those of you that are in the Prime program, just know we're going to have a meeting in about a week and a half, not this Thursday, but the Thursday after that. And I'll send you guys some text messages on the stocks that I'm selling options on. Selling options is a good thing to do in this environment because that is a generally bearish strategy. And also, if you get a pleasant surprise on the Fed announcement tomorrow or in the next couple of days, and maybe stocks go up and they start rallying, remember that's the time to get your put options and protect your position. So if you want to see some of the previous lectures we've done recently, just log in at drboyceprime.com and all the information's there. And I'll do I'll answer some of your questions in a video in the next day or so. All right, everybody. Well, have a good day. God bless you. It was great talking to you, and I'll see you all soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.